The grid went down 6 days ago. No warning, no countdown, just silence where the hum of civilization used to be. And now, you're standing at the edge of what used to be a suburb, watching the sky turn the color of a bruise. And you realize something that no one in your old life ever had to confront. Tonight, the temperature drops to 38 degrees. You have nothing but the clothes on your back, and there is not a single tool within reach. No axe, no knife, no rope, not even a lighter. The cold does not negotiate. It does not care about your intentions or your resourcefulness or how many survival videos you watched before everything collapsed. Exposure will shut you down faster than thirst, faster than hunger, faster than anything else this broken world throws at you. You have maybe 4 to 6 hours before your core temperature starts its descent into a place you cannot come back from. So stop looking at the horizon. Stop waiting for someone to show up with answers. The shelter gets built tonight, and you are going to build it with nothing but what the earth left behind. Before you touch a single branch, you need to pick the right ground. Most people get this catastrophically wrong. They see a clearing and think space equals safety. Wrong. A clearing is a wind tunnel, a heat sink, and a target all at once. Open ground radiates cold upward all night long and funnels every gust straight into whatever structure you built. You will freeze inside a perfectly constructed shelter if it is sitting in the wrong place. Here is what you are actually looking for. First, elevation. You want to be on a slope, not at the bottom of a valley. Cold air is dense. It sinks in pools at the lowest points of the terrain. Sleeping in a valley floor on a cold night is the same as climbing into a bathtub and filling it with ice water. Get above that cold pool. 10 to 15 feet of elevation difference can mean a 5-degree temperature advantage by morning. That is the difference between waking up and not waking up. Second, wind. Find the side of a hill, a dense thicket, or a rock face that blocks the prevailing wind. Put your back to that barrier. Wind strips heat from your shelter at a rate that insulation alone cannot compensate for. A windbreak is not a luxury, it is load-bearing. Third, overhead canopy. Dense tree cover acts as a thermal blanket. It traps radiated ground heat and blocks the sky, which on a clear night functions as a massive cold radiator pulling warmth away from anything below it. Solid cloud cover actually keeps you warmer than a clear starry sky. Find the trees. Fourth, proximity to water but not on top of it. You need water within reach for the days ahead, but do not camp on a riverbank or a floodplain. Water brings cold, moisture, insects, and in a broken world, it brings other people. Give yourself a buffer, 50 yards minimum. Scan the terrain, choose deliberately. You have one shot at this. Now, build.
The debris hut is the single most battle-tested no-tool shelter in the history of human survival. 10,000 years of field use, 0 patents. It works every time, if you build it right. The principle is a spine and ribs. That is the entire blueprint. Find a branch or fallen log at least 8 feet long. This is your ridgepole. Prop one end on a forked branch or a low stump at roughly hip height. The other end stays on the ground. You now have a central spine angling upward at 30 degrees. That angle is not cosmetic. It controls rain runoff and how efficiently your body heat fills the cavity below. Lean branches along both sides of the ridgepole like ribs on a spine. Angle them down at 45 degrees. Pack them tight enough that they interlock and form a lattice capable of holding weight without collapsing inward. Now, the most important rule of the entire build. Keep the interior just large enough for your body. Every extra cubic foot is dead air your body heat must warm from scratch. Cavernous feels safe. Cavernous kills you. The interior is a cocoon, not a room. If you can roll over without brushing the walls, make it smaller. The frame is nothing. The debris is everything. Your insulation layer needs to be 2 feet thick on all sides. Not 2 inches, not 6, 2 feet. That number is not a suggestion. It comes directly from the thermal resistance properties of loosely packed organic matter. Dry leaves, pine needles, grass, moss, bark strips, ferns. Any dead plant material with air trapped inside its structure. Start from the base of the rib structure and work upward, layering like shingles. Each pass overlaps the one below. Pile it on without hesitation. You are not landscaping. You are constructing a thermal barrier against a night that is actively trying to drain every degree of warmth from your core. When the pile looks excessive, add more. Your instincts are calibrated for a world with insulated walls and thermostats. That world is gone. A properly built debris hut looks like a collapsed compost heap from the outside. That is exactly correct. The physics are simple. Trapped air has near zero thermal conductivity. 2 feet of debris creates millions of micro air pockets. each one resisting heat transfer. Your body becomes a furnace. The debris becomes the walls of the combustion chamber. The ground is next, and it will kill you faster than the cold air above. Everyone obsesses over the roof. Nobody thinks about what is underneath them. That is where most people lose the night. Soil conducts heat away from your body roughly 30 times faster than still air. You can build a perfect overhead structure and still freeze solid from the ground up if you are lying on bare earth. The ground is not passive. It is a drain. Build a ground layer of at least 4 inches of dry compressed debris, leaves, grass, pine needles, bracken fern. Pack it down, add more, pack again. You are building a mattress that severs the thermal connection between your body and the earth below it. Test before you commit. Press your palm flat against the finished layer and hold it for 10 seconds. Cold bleeding through means insufficient insulation. Add material. Retest. Do not get inside until it passes. Avoid bare soil, exposed rock, and anything damp. Moisture collapses insulation value to near zero instantly. A wet debris layer is worse than no layer at all because it pulls heat conductively while also evaporating against your body. Dry is the only acceptable condition. If the ground is wet, elevate yourself using a platform of thick branches first, then insulate on it.
Rain does not care about your construction schedule. It will arrive while you are still building or in the middle of the night when you have nowhere else to go. A shelter that cannot shed water is not a shelter. It is a slow trap. The roof layering principle is borrowed from every functional roof ever built by any civilization in human history. Shingles. You start at the bottom and work up. Each layer of material overlaps the one below by at least half. Bark slabs, large leaves, pine boughs, grass bundles, whatever the terrain provides. The overlap is what forces water to travel down and off the surface instead of finding a gap and penetrating inward. Angle matters. Your ridgepole already gives you a 30-degree slope. Do not flatten it. Steeper sheds faster. A shallow angle allows water to pool, saturate the debris layer, and collapse your insulation value to zero within an hour of steady rain. Test the roof before nightfall. Pour water from a cupped handful onto the highest point of the structure. Watch where it goes. It should travel down and off the sides in a controlled sheet. If it soaks in or finds a channel inward, locate the gap and patch it with additional layered material. One rule that does not bend: no flat sections anywhere on the outer surface. Flat is where water decides to stay. You sealed the walls. You sealed the roof. Then you left a gaping hole at the entrance and wondered why you were freezing. The doorway is the single largest point of thermal failure in any field-built shelter. Cold air is dense and it flows like water. It will find that opening and pour directly into your sleeping cavity all night long. You have no door, so you build one from what is available. Pack a large bundle of dry leaves or grass into a rough plug the size of the opening. Compress it tightly enough that it holds its shape. This plug goes in behind you once you are inside. It does not need to be airtight. It needs to be resistant enough to break the airflow and trap a dead air buffer between the plug and your body. That buffer is your thermal lock. Orient your entrance away from the prevailing wind. You identified wind direction when you chose your site. Use that information now. A doorway facing into the wind is an intake valve. A doorway facing away from the wind is a sealed barrier. Same plug, completely different performance. If temperatures are severe, double the plug. 2 compressed bundles stacked against each other cut infiltration dramatically. Your body heat will build inside the cavity within minutes. Hold that heat. Every degree lost through that entrance is a degree your body burns fuel to replace. That is the build. Now understand what you just did. You selected terrain like someone who reads the land instead of fearing it. You built a structural frame from debris that has no right to stand, but does. You layered insulation to a depth that traps heat the way a sealed vault traps air. You cut yourself off from the thermal drain of the ground. You waterproofed a roof without a single manufactured material. You sealed an entrance with nothing but compressed organic matter and an understanding of how cold air moves. No tools, no hardware, no supply cache, just physics, geometry, and the knowledge of how the natural world actually behaves when you stop pretending it is hostile and start treating it as a resource. Most people who walked into the collapse unprepared are gone. Not because the world was too brutal,
because they waited for someone to hand them the answers. You did not wait. You built. And tonight, while the temperature drops and the wind moves through the ruins, you will be warm. That is what survival looks like.